another player that I want to get to that we haven't mentioned. Where does James Harden fit in all this? With his offensive tirades in the last few years and what he's been able to do, it's only three other players that have more 60-point games than James Harden. Wilt Chamberlain has like 28 or 30 or something crazy like that. Kobe Bryant has 6. Michael Jordan has 5. James Harden has 4. That's unusual.
I give James Harden the top 10.
Okay. Where in the top 10? Where is he in the top 10 for you, Vic? Is he top 5? I'm not saying he's number 3. I'm not big on James Harden. I think he's overrated.
One, it's a wait and see thing still because his story's still been written. 2, so much of those statistics are fool's gold in that Mike D'Antoni system.
Yes.
Because you see how his numbers are not the same with the Nets. His volume of shooting is not the same.
He's 3, the best player in the NBA, Vic.
He doesn't have any rings. And
nothing.
And he's a choke.
He may not get any.
Yeah, and then you look at the postseason. He's like the A-Rod of basketball right now. Like when it comes to the playoffs. So, but the thing is that there are too many other names that you can still put in the conversation either with or before James Harden. Like we haven't even said anything about Klay Thompson.
I don't think Klay Thompson's a top 10 shooting guard of all time. Not yet.
Nah, I don't think so.
Neither is Harden.
I think he may.
But if you're going to bring Harden into discussion, you can't ignore Klay Thompson.
Do you think that James Harden is better all around than Reggie Miller was? From a numbers standpoint, he's one of the greatest offensive weapons.
Reggie Miller would give you more quality points.
Mm.
More quality points against better opponents.
He's a better playmaker than Reggie Miller was, but
playmaker, yes.
Honestly,
James Harden has played point guard for like the last 3 seasons when he's
right.
And Mike D'Antoni's system, which definitely elevates your offensive output of your if you're anywhere near your prime. It got Steve Nash a couple MVPs. I don't believe he deserved.
Yeah, and especially if you're a dribbler like him and Nash both. They're great dribblers. They're gonna.
I don't think James Harden could do what he's doing now in the previous generation, or any. I just don't think in a half court setting because he doesn't have a post game. He does get to the basket, but there's nothing waiting for you at the rim in this era. There's no interior defense in the same way. And from a perimeter standpoint, it's so much more spacing on the floor that they can't really shrink the court against him. But when you do that, he's limited to just 1 or 2 offensive options because analytics makes people into robots sometimes, some of these players. So I do think James Harden is a little overrated, a little overblown, but I feel like with the numbers he's put up, I would be remiss. It would be unfair not to say that he is somewhere battled himself into the top 10, but he's got to win.
Yeah, and like he had so many chances to, win the championship. He had at least 3 Hall of Famers. Like he had Russell Westbrook, he had Chris Paul and Dwight Howard. He had so many chances to win, but he blew it. Really. So
I mean, a lot of times it's easy to be like, well, they blew those chances, but they were going against a juggernaut of a super.
They had him beat.
They had him beat. They had him beat
until Chris Paul got injured. Yeah. They win that game if Chris Paul's at 100%.
Chris Paul is an absolute dog. Okay, so another player that I'm surprised that I wasn't necessarily super big on, but that neither one of you guys mentioned was Tracy McGrady from a skill standpoint and what he could do defensively, but rarely did. But what he was able to do on the offensive end, he could do almost everything that Kobe could do, but he was 6'10".
Well, so there's 2 things though. With Tracy McGrady, he's 6'8". One though with McGrady is that if he had not gotten hurt with the Rockets when he did,
right,
that's a much different conversation. And I also think McGrady is top 10 all time. But the real question is, a lot of times he was kind of looked at as being a 3.
Yeah, I was about to say that. He was looked at as like a small forward.
He's more of a small forward.
I feel like he was he's a tweener. I look at him more like a shooting guard, especially going later in his career. Early on, I feel like they put him at the 3 a lot. But I feel like when he played with Vince Carter was the 3, right? Was Vince Carter a 2?
Carter would usually kind of be the 2 more so when they were in
They got to be interchangeable in a way because you're just 2 wing players. So it's hard to say. So Tracy McGrady, I think he ranks higher as a shooting guard than he probably would as a small forward because there are a lot of
Yeah,
small
because look who you're going up against.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had too many small forwards.
That's the reason, segue. That's the reason they try to list Tim Duncan as a power forward. I feel like Tim Duncan was really a center, but if you list Tim Duncan as a center, he would not really rank amongst all the greatest centers of all time. But as a power forward, you can rank him at the top.
Because he was playing the 5 that first year when Robinson was able to go for the 4.
Even when he was a 4, he was really a 5. It was just interchangeable in the Spurs offense. They just said he was the 4, in my opinion. But I mean,
you can say the same about Jerry West. He also played point guard.
He did, but Jerry West is pretty much known to be a shooter. Gail Goodrich back then on that team was the point guard for the Lakers in the championship.
Somebody
he led the league in assists. Jerry West.
So did Wilt Chamberlain one year.
I mean, somebody I think that we're kind of unfairly leaving out. I'll bring in 2 of them actually. 2 New York Knicks. One is a much more prominent, probably top 10. The other is a little more of a wild card. But what do we have to say about Walt Clyde Frazier? And what do we have to say about Allen Houston?
Walt Clyde Frazier is a point guard. So the guy you want is Earl the Pearl Monroe, who was a shooting guard. Frazier was the point guard for sure.
Frazier never played the 2.
He never played.
He took a whole high volume shots. So.
He did, but he was a point guard. He was a great defender. He probably is a top 10 or 12 point guard of all time. As time goes on,
it's weird. I don't think of him in my head as a point guard.
Yeah, he's a point guard. So Earl Monroe was the 2. When they traded Earl Monroe for the Baltimore Bullets to the Knicks, he was the shooting guard. So they were one of the best backcourts we've ever seen.
Who Jesus Shuttlesworth was technically named for.